to me, they're distortions, they're energetic distortions versus that pure, clean, energetic truth of who you are.
Wild Rose! Wild Rose!
Welcome to this week's episode of The Wild Rose. We've had technical issues, so we're a little bit awkward. More awkward than usual right now. We have Aliesha Bannister with us today, AB as we like to refer to her because she is one of our soul sisters and we have nicknames for each other. And before we get into the epic world that is AB, we're going to start off with hashtag awkward question time to kick off the podcast like we always do, just to get the ball rolling and just be a bit awkward for a minute so we can relax into the conversation. How does that feel, Aliesha?
That feels good. That
Okay,
feels
great.
good. I spend most of my life in awkward, so it's wonderful.
Well, welcome home.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so our awkward hashtag awkward question time question for you today, Aliesha, is what is your all-time favorite movie?
Ooh.
Like not the cool movie that you tell everybody's that's your favorite, so you look good, but like your actual favorite movie.
The guilty pleasure.
God, I don't know. I think I am quite a fan of the Mission Impossibles, which like they're good movies, right? So that's not like necessarily, but I feel like that might not be what people would think that I would be digging. But I get, and I just get, and even though I don't want to love him, because Tom Cruise, he's such a good actor, but I think some aspects of maybe who he is isn't really what I would usually dig. And I fucking
that was politely.
Yeah.
That was polite compared to
I don't want to love the movies, but I look forward when a new one's coming out, and that's like a must-see at the movies.
Oh, I love that, because I wouldn't see you as a Tom Cruise fan either, and it's kind of like a don't really love him, but I love this like vibe of the Mission Impossible.
And so like it'll be interesting to see if moving forward, if more of them come out, like, you know, because we're always evolving, if I still am interested, or if the, you know, I learned too much about him or something that I'm like, no, I can't do it anymore. But I haven't quite hit that point yet.
Or they replace him because he is getting old.
Yeah, because he is getting old now, There's also
Can he still stunt? We don't know.
Do I love geriatric Mission Impossible? We're not sure. It's yet to be determined.
I don't know. I just finished that Yellowstone series, and you know, before I was like, Kevin Costner, mate, he's just over the hill now, and now I'm just like watching that. It's just like, well, I could go.
Giddy up, cowboy. Yeah.
Giddy up.
Yeah.
Oh, Shona, what's yours?
I have mentioned Dirty Dancing before, so obviously
that's a cool
I won't
one.
do that again. Yeah, it is a bit cool, isn't it? I'm a sucker for rom-coms and Adam Sandler. So anything rom-com, Adam Sandler, 50 First Dates. Oh my God, I can't help myself. It's just so beautiful. And I cry every time. I've seen it like 100 times. I'm a tragic when it comes to love. And that's my, God. Yeah, my daughter's going to kill me for saying it. But that's it.
That is a little bit dorky. Adam Sandler was cool in the 90s. It's
borderline cringy, which is the purpose of this question, obviously, isn't it? Yeah. That's it. So you've nailed that genre.
I nail being cringy. Don't worry.
You do. You wear it well.
All right, Paul, what's yours?
Wayne's World.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Wayne's World. Yes. That's
Definitely.
Yes, I haven't seen that for so long.
Wayne's World can recite that movie backwards for you if you would please. I've watched that literally a million times. That would be one. And then another one would be, that's kind of a cringy one, because I mean Wayne's World's still cool, right?
Yeah,
It's iconic.
It's iconic. So I think another one that's a little bit cringy that I love, there was a movie, okay, it was, I don't know if people would have seen this. It wasn't like, you know, a bestseller at the movies type of movie. It was kind of like just one of those one straight to DVD kind of movies. But this one I absolutely loved growing up. It was called Teen Witch. And it was about this girl who was in high school and she was a dork. And then she went to this like antiques shop one day after school with her friend. And there was like this lady that ran the antique shop and she was very witchy and she had this like birthstone or something. And apparently it was meant for this girl and all of these things. And she gets this necklace and it turns her into a witch and she can like do whatever she wants and she becomes like the cool girl. And then the moral of the story at the end is like, you know what, being cool's not so cool and I'd rather be me. So it was a really good movie. I loved it. But it's like looking back now, I'm like, yeah, that's a bit of a cringy movie.
Yeah.
So go look up the trailer for it and you'll probably be like, yeah, that's cringy.
That's what it's about, man. It's what it's about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aliesha Bannister, AB, the absolute best. What are we going to talk about with you today? I read your bio before. I was just like, far out. How can I just grab little pieces of that bio and just like, right. I'm just going to read you a snippet. For you guys that haven't come across Aliesha Bannister, I was going to read a little bit that is my absolute favorite.
I'm so nervous where you've grabbed this from. Because I'm like got different bios all over the place. But anyway, please carry on.
Yeah, I'm just going to pick out the bits that I can see from you now, right?
Perfect. Yeah.
And as well as that I have worked with you before. So I do, what I got from, but we can talk about that. But what I got from you was freaking amazing. I seek the cleanest and clearest energetic path and outcomes always. Tick, yes. My role as an energy guide helps you understand the power of what lives in your energy field and how to amplify all that you are with ease, inclusiveness, and grace. Like far out. Far out. The next bit, I offer contributions. This bit, I offer contributions to the healing, coaching and self-development and inner growth spaces through my energetic intelligence and insights. And the what I got from that was like, yes, like contributions to my own healing and for what I was trying to seek that was already within myself. You were contributing your insights. It wasn't like you were like creating something that wasn't there for me.
It's always so like interesting to have feedback on what others see as well and what others like value and sort of the parts that stand out for them. So it's always actually like super nice to have stuff read back to you. So thank you for doing that. That suits my projector self very delightfully.
Yes.
It's taken me a long time and I don't know if I'll ever really know exactly what it is that I do when I'm with someone, right? Like I'm starting to get an overall view of, okay, I think everything that I see and that I'm passionate about ties back to, you know, a certain theme, which is like moving us forward as a collective. And then when it's like historically, when it's been working one-on-one with someone, it's just like, it's almost like so intangible, but when you've experienced it, it's extremely tangible, just how you feel, even if words can't come. So, you know, especially back in the day, I mean, this has changed a lot, especially in the circles we move in. You know, the old have an elevator pitch was, you know, business 101, especially entrepreneur business 101. I could never do it because there was no words that really would capture it. I think now I've realized that it's like just more you get access. So this is like obviously a podcast and no one can see what the movements I'm doing with my hand, but you've got your physical body, then we've got our energy body out here, And it's like all of that already exists. Like all that we are already exists. And there's sometimes like different activities you do or different people you speak with, all of a sudden it's like you just get to see more of what you are and more of who you are, and you almost like just get access to that energy and that frequency. And I think that that's the sort of thing that happens. And that's what like a true healer is. They might not necessarily be doing anything, but they have a frequency, which is their skill set, that just actually initiates and activates and reveals like a certain part of the person that feels like what it is.
Yeah. And I guess for me on the other side of that, it was quite profound. There was a mixture for me. It was a mixture of permission, of validation, of seeing something within me that was probably could have been oppressed from a young age, or could have been oppressed from, life experiences in my 20s, 30s, whatever it is. It's something different than I've ever experienced. But I think more so that it was just like, it moved me emotionally because it was like, I'd hoped that it was there.
Yeah.
And then you brought it out, and it was just like this holy shit, it's fucking there. It's actually there. And what I hoped and dreamed of was already, and it's just like, now I just get to be it. Now I just have to, it was just like, it was very empowering and liberating.
Yeah, that's so good. And so I think like that is from like the part of that bio that you wrote before, that's the aspect of amplifying. Like you already had the connection to the whisper, right? Like you already had like either, and it's different for everyone, isn't it? Like just a little bit of a knowing, or a little bit of a hint, or a little bit of a whisper, or a little bit of, I think that's what I might do or be, but I don't really know. So then that's what we're doing, is in the energy of that particular, dynamic in the healing container, I suppose, that was amplified and shown. And this is going to sound, sometimes I love to talk about this because, a lot of where I'm at now is anchoring more deeply into humanity, right? Anchoring more deeply into the human that we are, not floating off in love and light and, endless spiritual bliss. Like that sort of, I expanded into that area, and then the last couple of months it's been like, you don't expand more into there, you actually now just fucking anchor into the dirt and the messiness of human. So I get a little bit, I don't want to float off too much into like esoteric spiritual love and light. But now I forgot what I was saying. So I think what I actually have the ability to do, and I say like I have the ability to do because we're talking about sort of like a one-on-one experience, is it's all around just discovering that sort of like that pure energetic frequency that someone is. And so the opposite of that is when we are, because this is like what the most of the healing work that I've done is actually like helping people. We have thoughts and we have beliefs and we have pressures, and a lot of them aren't true. They're not actual truth. They're illusions. They're very real to experience, but they're actually just like the conditioning of the society that we live in, or they're just limiting beliefs or whatever. And so to me, they're distortions, they're energetic distortions versus that pure, clean, energetic truth of who you are. Does that make sense?
Hell
absolutely.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
So it's always the differentiation between that, and say in the example that you gave, Shona, about your experience, that wasn't really, I don't remember, and I don't think that we didn't really have to clear a lot of distorted energy. We just actually had to, in the presence of someone who sees energetic truth, we just had to amplify and speak out and unfold what you had actually like connected up to a little bit anyway. And that is energetically permission giving. You don't need permission, of course you don't, but energetically it's like it got supercharged and you're like, yeah, this is a fucking thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really is interesting how you're speaking about the humanity sense, and how we have these different, like, all these different things come to play. Like Paula and I are going to do a podcast episode soon on love languages, and I'll just touch a little bit. Like, I've just realized that mine's, words of affirmation.
Yeah.
So that makes total sense that, that's what I was seeking.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mine is physical touch. And the thing that I've been really missing in my business is like the in-person workshops. I'm like, why am I so drawn to it? Why can't I emulate this with my online work? And it's like a different energy, and it's a different kind of like a different frequency that comes out of me when I'm at those in-person events. And I'm like, because I can like physically, like, I don't touch people. Like,
with consent, everyone, with consent.
Like, but just having people in proximity to me and being able to hug somebody and be like, welcome, let's work together, and have that sort of, that personal closeness. And I find it really interesting that when you talk about, the energetic field around you, like your aura, some people call it an aura.
Yeah, aura,
And so this is something that I've been leaning into recently with, just over the past sort of year, and playing with this, what actually expands my aura and feeling into it energy wise with my business. Cause that I feel like helps to lead me in ways that I'm like, oh, it's over here. I thought, like, with my conditioned thinking, that business should be this way, that my brand is heading in this direction, so I should be doing this next, and this makes sense, and blah, 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 rather than like feeling into that energy field around me and like, does it feel expansive moving this way, or does it start to contract?
Yeah. So good. Like, that's our governance. That's our self-governance, is learning. So this is, say, like, the first step when, would be basically saying that we're sort of like, from our regular Western 80s, 90s, 2000s society, right? Like Australian society. The first step usually for people is working out, okay, well, what's me versus others energetically, like the boundaries, like energetic boundary creation. That's usually that sort of first step. And then the next step is to be sort of like intuitively led and intuitively guided, as opposed to the mind and or its conditioning, is to be like, does this expand my energy or does this contract my energy? Like, that is gold. That is so powerful.
Yeah.
Good job.
So how does it, when somebody comes and does a session with you, so Shona's done a session with you, and when you talk about, I've always find this so interesting because I've done some work with some people around, really tapping into my own intuition and psychic abilities and all of these sorts of things. And like, when you have a session with somebody, and how we work with people and their energy, and I know Shona does this as well with her sessions. It's like when people say, when we work together, I feel into, I see I download, whatever these things are that we're getting channeled through us, because we open ourselves up to going, okay, this person's been drawn to work with me. And, it's more of an opening up and allowing what comes through to come through. For you, AB, when you do your work, like, what does a session look like with you? How does that, because everybody's different. Who's
totally.
in this world doing this work.
Isn't it?
It
Like,
always
so
fascinates
different.
me.
Yeah. I think for me, it's been mostly through talking. It's like through talking. And it was really cool when I had my first session, life purpose thing with Maria Portis, is because she gave, because I've just been bumbling around. I started as a naturopath, and all of a sudden I'm like, I don't know how I know these things about emotions and energy and limiting beliefs. They just it just actually just evolved and expanded. And I'm like, should someone be like supervising me doing this shit? Because it just started happening like that.
Oh, I can relate.
And so when I had my session with Maria, and she literally, without knowing me at all, like, what came through, the languaging for what I did at that time was so bang on. It was fucking amazing. And that's part of the gift from that, not only affirming it, but giving me some languaging, because I've never really had the languaging. Anyway, sidestep. But what she said in there, or what came through for her in my reading, was that it's like I'm in their energy field walking around and just being able to determine. So this next bit is sort of my languaging, but being able to determine what's like true self versus not true self energetically. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And like
I just got goosebumps.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like there's, you know, they'll have a belief or we'll be exploring a particular topic. So this is sort of more like for the sort of the straight up healing session style, right? Like the other session, which is what's more along the lines of what Shona had, is a bit different. But for this style, it's like we're in there and we'll be talking about stuff like, say, like an experience I had or an emotional difficulty or just a stuck point, like an energetic stuck point. My jam is totally when energy is stuck, that's where I shine the best, because it's like we can just see what is causing the stuckness. We can see that it actually is stuck, and we can see that it's like old density that just needs to go. So it's just like a feeling. I can hear it in the tone of someone's voice. I can just know it, like it comes in like a bit like, say, like maybe through my crown chakra or like spidey senses out here, like in that top part of my head.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes if it's not through someone's voice, if they're very like held emotionally, I'll just get this like this little lip quiver will happen. Like, yeah,
Oh,
it's so
that's
interesting.
so cool.
Yeah, a little tell. Yeah, for people. Yeah, so it's like I'm in their energy field, almost just walking around through the talking. The talking is the walking.
Yeah.
And yeah, we just work whatever's they're there for, and to sort of help free up their access to more of their true self is what it feels like.
That's so cool. I can hear it in people's voices, and I also get goosebumps, but just on one side of my body. So I know when something's like bang on, I get this shot of goosebumps just on one side of my body. I'm like, whoa, okay. That's truth. Like,
I love that.
Yeah.
Lots of people get, especially when it's sort of like, what do you think, is that for when you're getting like psychic style messages or when you're working with someone? Like, when does that happen for you?
Both. Like, that's a confirmation thing.
Yeah.
If somebody's just said something, or if I've asked a question and an answer's come through, it's like kind of like it's kind of like a confirmation thing.
Yeah.
And like when you were talking then and I said, oh, I just got goosebumps, like you were talking in your truth, and so I got the goosebumps come through.
Yeah.
That's bang on, like that's what it is.
Yeah.
It
was a registering. Yeah. Yeah,
cool.
because it's all energy. Like this is all energy, guys.
What else can you say?
Yeah.
You know, but you know, do you know what I love about you, baby, is that
Please tell me.
I really do love how even through the screen of my face of the books, when I'm looking at you, is I can see that you're just sitting back, watching people, watching humanity, watching things happen. Just like I'm observing, I'm just checking things out. I know exactly what's going on here. And then bang, there's a big, beautiful post that just like gets you and just like, oh my God, how do you know this shit? You know, I just love how you do this, like how you live life, because you know what, you probably one of the most non-judgmental people that I know. Like you let people be people, and it's just like, but we can do better. But the way you gracefully can lead us to do better is quite profound. And I think that's why you're so magnetizing. Like you make us want to do it, not because we feel bad that we aren't doing it better.
That's so cool. That observation is very powerful, and I really appreciate that. Yeah, you know, I suppose like I'm built a certain way. You know, like I was energetically designed to. If someone's gonna have that sort of wide vision that I have, they have to have an element of magnetism, or the message isn't going to be heard. Do you know what I mean? Because we don't love change, and we don't love, you know, especially at this particular time, we're really living in a time where a lot of old survival patternings and a lot of fucking shitty frameworks of the white supremacy, patriarchy and capitalism, I see them as energetic frameworks, like little domes over our society. They're needing to be torn down and the roots ripped out. And because of how they were formed, it was very survival energy based, and survival energy is very potent, and it will go down fighting. So when we're trying to change the psyche and the energetic matrix that we live in, the messages have to come through a frequency of magnetism, or it just won't be heard, because the survival system will cut it off.
That's it.
I mean, that was very elaborate and big picture there. But
no, but this is the reality. This is the reality in the world we're living in right now. And we can flap our beautiful butterfly wings as much as we want. But the reality is we are feeling the impact of all what you said that needs to come crumbling down. We're all feeling it to some degree, but and it's heavy right now. It is
massive,
heavy.
Yeah.
And we're all trying to, we can't ignore it, but it's like, okay, in the face of this, in the face of adversity, we're still going, right? We're still swimming, we're still getting to the top of the water, and we're not getting pulled down from it. We're going to try our hardest not to be pulled down from it. But the reality is it is trying to pull us down.
And the reality is there's some people, especially those that the frameworks don't support, or, they're under the water.
Yeah. That's right. That's it. And we're helping. We're trying with all our might to help and pull them up. And sometimes we're getting it wrong. Sometimes we're getting it right. But it is reality, and so it's kind of like, these are the conversations that need to happen to be here. We have to have them, because there's so much heaviness on our shoulders, man.
Yeah, huge. And I think, like, with the more specifically, say with the non-judgmental, is that's when you sort of like, through doing the work that I did. So I was one-on-one practitioner. So I started as a naturopath, then I was so obviously, like, sessions like that. And just over, the 12 and a bit years, it just my understanding just moved further and further out into the energy field. And when you see the patternings of, over a decade of working with people, and you see the patternings of pain and wounding and you just see those patternings, you can't judge anyone, because it's actually none of it is really their fault. I mean, it's totally 100% from that very second you gain awareness, it's your responsibility to work through and change. But when you start to see how we're made up and what fuels our words, emotions, actions, and literally that the energy field, like the aura around us, is embedded, like these wounding imprints, or these like abandonment stuff, or like wounding imprints, I'll stick with that, literally are like we're wearing glasses that we speak through and we perceive the world through, and everyone's just acting accordingly to what lives in their energy field. And it's hard to judge someone for that, because it's like, that's where I then just have to shift my focus to going, okay, well, just keep seeing it. I just have to keep seeing it. I think my job mostly, yes, speaking it, but I actually think my job is to keep seeing it, keep seeing how we can change, keep seeing how we can do better, keep seeing where the issues are, and also see that next step that can help elicit change, on the ground change.
I love that, because it's what you were just saying then was just like, because some people, we can't blame them, or I can't even explain this right, but we can't blame them for that, because they are giving their all, everything they've got, but they may only just have this much compared to someone that may have this much right now. And so it's like, that's like the whole point of when I was saying how you just let people be people, but bring them along for the ride. And it's just like, they can expand at their time, when they can, because they have all these outside influences, external influences that we don't have.
Yeah.
So we can't. There's no way we can possibly all have this big barrel of stuff that we can give out.
Yeah.
We can just give out as much as what we have.
It's the human experience. I absolutely love it. The more that I learn about it is that we are part of the whole. All of us here, we came to be part of the whole, but our individual experiences are so individual.
Yeah.
And it's this, like, the whole pathway through life is understanding your life experience and trying to experience as much lifetime in this possible for you in this lifetime, the way that you want to experience it, but also being connected to the whole. And I think this, especially in this time, so many people are being disconnected from the whole and feeling like they're alone and feeling like there's so much segregation and, you know, us versus them and these people and those people, and we're so separated. But something that I always like to come back to, I'm like, it's the human experience. Like, you think about, you know, we're here to be creators, and we are creation itself. Yeah. And what happens when you create? You get all the pieces and parts and you put it together and you create something. But then in order to create something new, we have to break apart what already is to build again. So I absolutely love this because, you know, you're here to witness the parts. Yeah. And be like, okay, that's a good part. That's a good part. Like, these are all the parts that we've got. And like, how can we work with these parts and create something? How can we work with these parts and create something, instead of everybody trying to fix what's broken or like go back to what was, because it's broken. We can't. We've got to create something new from here.
Yeah.
Damn straight.
It's like everything I see, and this is where it's sometimes frustrating, like it's that's why I was so good in one-on-one sessions, because, and you know, it's also, this is why it's hard for me to sort of just say go live on Facebook and just start talking about a topic, because where I get my inspiration from, it's like relativity is everything to me, because I'm reading energy relative, like based on what is presenting to me. So a human coming into a session, I'll read the shit out of that. You know, there's so much to, like, it's like, all right, well, this is all what we're working with here, and this is where how we can just make it feel better, you know? So like, I don't really get, say take leadership, for example, right? Like, I live in Melbourne, so obviously through the lockdown, through the pandemic, it's been a pretty difficult and interesting place to live. Pretty fucked up. It was pretty fucked up, right? And look, I don't think anywhere's having a good time, but Melbourne especially, like there was some, it was intense. And so say like, we obviously look to the governmental leaders there and the decisions they're making. So, but what I see is let me come back, make sure I come back to boundaries too. It might get woven in through here, but let's just pinpoint that. I don't really get mad at the people. Like, of course, momentarily, if someone will do something, I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. Like, you know, I will momentarily, but I don't stay there. I suppose I'm lucky in a way, is because I can see that they're just working from the blueprint of society that we have. And that's where they're making their decisions from. And so it's like, that person isn't the problem. The blueprint is the problem. And we have to work to change that. And they're the things that I mentioned before, you know, like especially in our society, the white supremacy framework, patriarchy and capitalism, they're the blueprints that our leaders are working from at the moment. And so we need to, first of all, like, individually, each of us do the work to unplug from those frameworks so that we can then actually see options for new ways to do things. Because the blueprints don't let us see. While we're like governed by the blueprints, they don't let us see.
That's interesting, because and how we make those changes to the blueprint when we're so steadfast with under the ego, and you know. Interesting stuff. It's going to be a long road. So tell us about the boundaries.
So before, when we're sort of like talking about you know, not judging people, like I just don't really hold judgment, but a very important thing for that is to have cultivated rock solid energetic boundaries, because I don't really judge someone. I can not agree with the behavior and I can be like, we fucking need to do way better than that. But also I don't accept it either. Like, it's different. So energetically, I'm like, I've got like a Kremlin wall, you know, the Kremlin, like it's a massive brick wall around the Russian embassy or consulate or something like that. It's an impressive wall. That's why that's the image that comes in. And the bricks are very tight. They're like, there's no gaps anywhere. And so for that sort of stuff, we have still the ability to be like, I'm a hard no for that. I don't want that in my world. I'm not encouraging or enabling your behavior. I'm not really going to judge you, but like, that's a fucking hard no. Like, energetically, that's a hard no. And so when we each start to do that, that's when the other person, like, we're not taking on another person's pain or projection or whatever. And it energetically gets almost like it hits your energetic boundary, and their projection or their wounding that they were trying to, like, you know, project off gets like mirrored back to them, and it rebounds back. And that's when they get to feel if they want to make some changes for themselves as well.
Yeah.
I love that.
Perfectly said.
Yeah. What would you say to people who are, okay, well, I need to strengthen my boundaries, or I need some boundaries because I don't have any. I take on the energies of other people, and like, somebody does something shitty and it stays with me for a long time, and then I have trouble letting go. What are some things that we can do to strengthen boundaries?
It's a little bit individual because it depends on why the boundaries aren't there. It's all about the self. Like, we're only ever in control of governing our own self and our own whatever lies within our own aura or energy field. We're only in charge of that. We can't control outside of that. So I'll sort of talk about a few patterns that I've seen, I suppose. A lot of it is, and this can sometimes be a very confronting aspect to accept, because it's like, well, they're doing it to me and they're impacting me.
Yeah.
But there's usually some sort of like early survival programming that it was safer for someone to feel what was going on for others. That was their safety blanket. It's like, well, if I feel it, then I know what's going on. So, and that does that make sense?
It does, because there might have been circumstances where they needed to navigate a person or a situation often in their lifetime. They're like, if I understand what's going on here and if I feel it, I'll know how to get around this for safety.
And that a lot of
things,
and that will be, you know, we don't want to sound too cliche because it talks about this, that energetically it's how it works. There's a lot of that will be through childhood stuff.
Yeah,
especially if, like, say if it was siblings, but most often parents. Like, if there was parents that maybe weren't, and of our generation, whose were, for starters, like emotionally intelligent, and, you know, like this is actually most of us, but much more severe, obviously, for certain people's experiences than others. You know, if the little person perceived instability emotionally or sort of like actually in their world, these survival mechanisms get cultivated and developed because we don't like instability. It's not good for us. We don't like the feeling of it. And so that's where we have these little survival mechanisms and skill sets that we develop when we're little. And there's a point where they're ready to go. They chaperoned us to a certain point, and now they're ready to go because we've gained access to enough of our own pure energetic state and our boundaries. And, like, you know, we sort of have become present enough in ourselves that we don't need them anymore. So that's when someone will seek healing, or if something will happen and then it's time they can do the work to let that go.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So if you are feeling like you don't have boundaries in certain areas of your life, look at the patterning, like not judging yourself. And that's a beautiful thing that you're coming to with this, like not judging other people, but also not judging yourself, because you're within your own, you know, blueprint that you have, and we don't know it any other way until we consciously see it and go, oh, I want to change this. And that's when
and
the work
start
happens.
seeking it, you know.
Yeah.
And that can happen a lot of different ways. And that's why it was such a beautiful journey for me, is becoming the naturopath, and people come see me for physical stuff, because that's the body communicating. That's sort of like the final destination of who we are. It's the landing point, it's the anchoring point. And so that it's such a communication tool, our physical health, wellness, or not, right? Like any physical distortions, they sort of like, it's like your emotional body or your energy body is waving a flag that we, at the evolution level that we are, can read.
Yeah, because you can't,
You know what I mean?
you can't physically see your energy. You can't physically see, you know, what your spirit body is trying to communicate with you, or what your inner knowing or your inner guidance is trying to communicate with you. Sometimes it needs to get to a point where it's like spelling it out for you, like, hey, there's something wrong here, there's something that's not aligned, there's something that's gone off track, like pay attention to me.
So the siren gets turned on, and it's that point of call, that port where the siren gets turned on, because you know, we're not listening any other time until, oh my god, we're feeling sick, or we've got pain, or we've got, you know, something's going on physically, and that's when we start to go, okay, I need to do something.
I'm going to action it. That's the thing that initiates action for us, to seek it and explore. So the boundaries then, that first bit is sort of recognizing like self versus others, and why the boundaries might not be there, you know, why we haven't got the boundaries there. And it was also important to note that your loved ones and your family, they have the ability energetically to find where any holes in your fence are.
Don't they ever?
Like, you could have made a pretty cool fence line, but if you miss one spot, your fucking family will find it. Your kids will find it, and your own childhood family will find it, and your partner also. So when we do this work, you know, we take note of what happens in our sort of like other aspects of life as well, as, you know, because it can seem like it's a never-ending cycle with the loved one.
It is. And I feel like that's an important thing, because it is a never-ending thing. I don't think anybody, well, is that what enlightenment is? That you've healed all of the healings that you needed to in this lifetime? Like, for the majority of people living the human experience, you're not going to get to a point where everything's healed. So it's beautiful to go on these healing journeys and to dive into those and to see what patternings and what things that we've got going on, but also just to know that you can still grow and expand while you're healing. You don't have to wait until something's completely healed and done before you can then expand in that area, or do better in that area, or, you know, go next level in that area, or whatever it is. It's like you do that as you're healing, because it's
part of it, isn't it?
And
it's like you're missing out.
That's it. And it's like you actually can't heal sitting still anyway. I mean, if I say that, also another sort of aspect is we have to slow down to heal. But if we're sitting on the couch not actioning other parts of our life because we're waiting for this perfect energetic state, you actually aren't going to find that, because we're not, the journey has to be a journey of movement.
And I love that you said that, to slow down to heal, because I've found that if I've been trying to rush everything and like heal and do the things and do it all at once, like, we'll just like fast track this bit. So I think it ends up taking twice as long. But I found that if I do slow down and go through the healing and go at a pace where like that can happen simultaneously, it feels like I get there in no time. Like it feels like I get to the next point in no time, and I'm like, oh, okay, now we're into this next bit of this, or the like that's past and now this is opened up. So the slowing down it actually for me feels like it then sort of speeds up the healing for me in the process, because I'm open to it. I'm like, all right, let's have it be what it's got to be.
And when you slow down, it feels like, this is sort of how it's shown to me, is it because we've got our like person, like our physical person, and then we obviously have the energy body, the energy field. And a lot of the stuff, like, you know, our limiting beliefs, our pain imprints, our woundings, blah, 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 all that stuff, it's sometimes if we're moving fast for a reason, not just because society encourages it, but because if we move fast, look, the energy field to me sort of is always shown like a bit of a like a fishing net, and all of that density is at the back. And if we move fast, we just keep a little bit ahead of all the baggage that we have, that that we don't want to, the shadow stuff, right?
So it doesn't touch us.
Like,
but it's not going to touch me.
Ahead of it. Yeah, and it sort of like drags, like we're dragging. We're working hard to stay ahead of it, but when we slow down, it's like I just beautifully see everything doesn't slam into you. I think the fear is that if we slow down, all of my stuff, in inverted commas, is going to slam into me. And it doesn't necessarily work like that. But we have to know what we're working with if we're looking to do this inner work. We have to know what exists there. That is the only way. So to slow down, we get to stock take what's around us in our own field. And then we get to be guided by, all right, what's ready to go? What are we going to work through? What are we going to shift? What's ready to be rewritten? Some stories are rewritten, and some beliefs are just gone. Yeah, like they just go in a healing session, in a healing setting. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And some just get to stay, but your like meaning you make them just gets to shift.
Totally.
It's not always
That's
about,
right.
I've got to remove that. Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Microphone. You've got to remove that. We've got to delete that. We've got to squash that and clean out that. It's like sometimes you've got these beliefs and you're not actually, your relationship to them just needs to shift into a new light. And you're like, oh, actually, I really like this one. This one can stay. This one's great. I was just looking at it from the wrong angle.
Yeah. I love that. And it's like, you get to look at it and it almost like it blossoms into its fullest potential there. And it becomes, because a lot of it, I don't know if this is exactly, it might not be the same thing you were meaning, Paula, then, or it might be, is a lot of what I'm finding is, especially when we do, especially human design is a major tool to help us understand how we're naturally built and how we best work, especially to then be governed by that as opposed to the frameworks of society that we live in, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where so much of that is, it's so powerful, and that's part of how we get to unplug, because that's a tool to unplug. It's like, oh, I'm meant to work that way. And when that happens, So it's like I've got my natural state, but it feels like there's some conditioning wrapped around it, which makes it negative, makes it feel like a limiting belief that I've got to shift. And I was like, nah, mate, we just got to take the conditioning off, and then it blossoms into like just pure self.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very cool.
Is that what you, the same sort of thing that you were saying?
Oh yeah. Full body goosebumps. No, that's exactly what I meant. And yeah, I think human design is a beautiful way to explain that, because I know when I had my reading, there was so many things that it's like, okay, and you're designed to work in this way and this blah, blah, and all these things. And I was like, oh, I grew up thinking that was like not a good trait of mine, and I had to fix it because it didn't fit in with like the way that I was supposed to perform at school and the way that I'm supposed to perform as a parent and all of these things. But it's just like, you take that angle off it of how it's been looked at from the world outside of you, and you look at it and go, actually, this is a superpower of mine. Like, this is how I get to really like do stuff.
This is my ultimate
really
zone. This is my ultimate zone of living, really.
It does. It makes you feel alive when you are doing things that in a way that feel really natural and innate to you. And like, you don't have that, oh, but I should feel shame or guilty around doing it this way, because in this environment, it's not accepted. In this environment, it's seen as, bad or wrong or should be changed or anything like that. So
huge. I see human design as being a tool, but like especially say like for where we, through the world that we, our society or whatever, I love it because I see it as a tool, because we've been our boundaries and our guidance has come purely from those frameworks of society, right? We have lost so much disconnect to self and source and intuition and our true natures, like the stuff we were just talking about then. And so I think ultimately, we're not going to need a framework like human design moving forward, because people are going to be born into an environment that just allows and encourages them to find their own stuff, right?
Yeah.
But as a bridging, as a coming out of this framework, to have a little bit of guidance from a framework of the self through something like human design, I think is really useful bridging, like a bridging gap. Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
see huge potential for it. Not potential, sorry. That's like, it's already got, it's very active and it's been around for a long time, right? Oh, yes, you heard it here first. It's really going to take off.
Invest in stocks in human design. It's going to explode.
Oh,
That's
God.
it. Oh,
But it's
funny.
like, I see the value spreading for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. And I love that about, you know, hopefully we get to a point where, you know, future generations don't even have to look for things like that, because it's just, you know, how does it work for you? How do you think about this? How do you feel about this? And this is one of the reasons why we wanted to homeschool our kids, because I'm like, I could see just even in my daughter's first year and a half in schooling, like the way that she thought around things, the way that she would create and do schoolwork in order to hand it in was very different from the way that she would just naturally play and create on her own and at home. And even at a young age, I could see it. And she was like, is this good enough? Is this going to be right? Am I right here? And I'm like, baby, you don't need to be right about everything. And she'd get so anxious about being right, being correct, getting a stamp, getting a, like, you know, a tick from the teacher. And I'm like, no.
Oh, no. Yeah.
This was an incredible conversation.
Oh
my
no, you
gosh.
don't want it to end, right? I just want it, man. It's been a beautiful, beautiful time, beautiful space. We are, thank you so much for joining us, AB. You're a light, you're just amazing. Just opened so much within me. I just love it. Love hearing you, being in your presence.
Thank you. And thanks for the chat, because like I only am something in the presence of interacting with others. Do you know what I mean? Like
I totally relate.
Yeah, that's I mean, my worth and value isn't associated with working with others, but I'm still very worthy. But the interactions with others and the conversations, it's like, that's where it all is. That's where the wisdom is. That's where all the stuff is. So it's really important. I'm very grateful to have been able to have this chat.
Oh, we loved having you on. We'll have to have you on again.
Yes, please do.
Sure. So we'll put all of your details into the show notes so people can come and follow you. And if you want to work with Amy, reach out to her. We'll put all her links in the show notes. She's an incredible human being. And her sessions, oh my gosh, I've heard so many stories about your sessions and how life-changing they are and the impact. I mean, Shona, we'll say that.
I do not shut up about AB's session.
She does not. This is fact.
Actually,
she talks about your sessions all the time.
Not just when I'm here in person.
No, behind your back.
I love it when people talk about me behind my back like that's the best.
When your ears are burning, girlfriend, you know where it's coming from.
Oh, so good.
Signing out. You're amazing. Love you.
Thanks, guys.
Wow, Rose! Wow, Rose! Right.